In January 2021, shares of a dying mall video game retailer went from about $17 to $483 in under 4 weeks. That's a gain of more than 2,700%, and it happened not because the business suddenly got better, but because Wall Street's own math backfired. Some of the most sophisticated investors in the world lost billions of dollars in days. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how it happened, step by step, in plain English. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering one of the wildest true stories in modern market history, the GameStop short squeeze of January 2021. What actually happened? Stripped of the hype and the myths. Here's what you'll walk away with. First, you'll understand the core mechanic that made this possible. Short selling, and what a short squeeze really is, explained so simply you could teach it to a friend. Second, we'll walk through the real timeline, day by day, with the actual numbers, the hedge fund that lost billions, the trading app that froze buying at the worst possible moment, and the individual investor whose $53,000 bet grew to roughly $48 million. And third, we'll break down the biggest misconceptions people still repeat about this event, including one that a government investigation directly contradicted, and the practical lessons that protect you as an everyday investor. Every number in this video has been fact-checked against public records, regulatory reports, and contemporaneous news coverage. This isn't legend. This is what the record actually shows. Let's get into it. To understand what happened, you only need to understand one idea: short selling. So let's build it from scratch. Normal investing is simple. You buy a share for $20, you hope it goes to $30, and you profit from the rise. Buy low, sell high in that order. Short selling flips the order. A short seller profits when a stock falls. And the way it works sounds strange the first time you hear it, so let's use our old friend Marcus. Marcus believes a struggling company's stock, currently at $20, is heading down. So he borrows 100 shares from his broker, shares he doesn't own, and immediately sells them at the market price. 100 shares times $20 puts $2,000 of cash in his account. But he owes his broker 100 shares. Not $2,000, 100 shares. That debt is the key to everything that follows. Scenario 1. Marcus is right. The stock falls to $10. He buys back 100 shares for $1,000, hands them to the broker, and keeps the difference, a $1,000 profit. Sell high, buy low. Same rule, reversed order. Scenario 2. Marcus is wrong. The stock rises to $100. He still owes 100 shares, and buying them back now costs $10,000. He received $2,000. He's lost $8,000, 4 times the cash he originally took in. And notice something brutal about the math. When you buy a stock at $20, the worst case is it goes to zero and you lose $20 a share. 100%, and it stops. When you short at $20, there is no ceiling on the price, so there is no floor on your loss. A stock can rise 50%, 500%, 2,000%. Your loss just keeps growing. Losses on a short position are, in theory, unlimited. Now add one more ingredient, the margin call. Because shorting uses borrowed shares, the broker requires collateral. As the price rises against Marcus, the broker demands more cash. If he can't post it, the broker can force him to buy back the shares immediately, at whatever the price is, to close the position. He doesn't get to wait and hope. And that is where a short squeeze comes from. Picture not just Marcus, but hundreds of funds all short the same stock. The price starts rising. Losses mount. Margin calls go out. Shorts are forced to buy shares to exit, but wait. Buying shares pushes the price up, which deepens the losses of every remaining short, which forces more of them to buy, which pushes the price higher again. It's a feedback loop where the people betting against a stock become its most desperate buyers. That's a short squeeze. The fire feeding itself. There's a way to measure how flammable a stock is. Short interest, the percentage of available shares that have been sold short. 10% is notable. 20% is high. GameStop, in mid-January 2021, had short interest of roughly 140% of its available public shares. How can more than 100% of the shares be sold short? Because borrowed shares can be relent. Fund A borrows a share and sells it short. The buyer's broker lends that same share to Fund B, who shorts it again. One share, two short positions. To make it concrete with round, illustrative numbers, if the freely tradable supply is 50 million shares, 140% short interest means 70 million shares sold short, 20 million more shares owed than the tradable supply even contains. Legal, but it means that if the price ever ran, the exit door was mathematically smaller than the crowd trying to get through it. One last accelerant quickly, options. In January 2021, huge numbers of traders were also buying call options on the stock. The firms that sell those options manage their risk by buying shares of the actual stock as the price rises, adding yet another wave of forced buying on top of the squeeze. If you want that mechanic explained properly, we have a full beginner's video on how options work, but for today, just know it was extra fuel on an already burning fire. So that's the setup. A heavily shorted stock, more shares owed than readily available, and a crowd that figured it out. Now, let's watch it happen in real time. Quick note before the timeline, the company later split its stock 4-for-1. So if you pull up a chart today, every price you're about to hear appears at 1/4 of these values. We're using the original prices from 2021. First, the setup. GameStop was a chain of brick-and-mortar video game stores, and by 2020, that was a hard business. Games were increasingly downloaded, not bought in malls, and the pandemic emptied the malls that were left. In April 2020, the stock touched a low of around $2.57. Wall Street looked at all this and made the obvious bet. Hedge funds shorted it heavily, building toward that roughly 140% short interest we just talked about. But not everyone agreed the company was dead. Starting back in 2019, an individual investor named Keith Gill, a financial analyst posting online under a couple of colorful usernames, laid out a public case that the stock was drastically undervalued and backed it with roughly $53,000 of his own money. He posted his position, including its losing stretches, month after month on a Reddit forum called Wall Street Bets. Then, in January 2021, a well-known e-commerce entrepreneur who had built a major stake in the company joined its board, and suddenly, there was a real turnaround story to believe in. The stock started the month around $17.25. Retail traders on that forum connected the dots, decent turnaround story, absurdly crowded short position, and started buying shares and call options, in numbers nobody anticipated. Now the tape. By Friday, January 22nd, the stock closed at $65. The squeeze was starting to bite. On Monday, January 25th, two larger investment firms injected a combined $2.75 billion into Melvin Capital, a prominent hedge fund that had been publicly identified with the short side and was bleeding. Think about that. A rescue measured in billions over a mall retailer. On the 26th, the stock closed near $148, and even a famous tech billionaire tweeted about it that evening. On Wednesday the 27th, it closed at $347.51, and Melvin Capital said it had closed out its position, locking in devastating losses. By the end of January, that fund was down 53% for the month, a loss reported at around $6.8 billion. It never truly recovered, and in May 2022, it shut down entirely. Then came Thursday, January 28th, the strangest day in modern retail trading. In pre-market hours, the stock briefly traded above $500. During the regular session, it hit an intraday high of $483. From $17.25 to $483 in 4 weeks, over 2,700%. And that same morning, everything changed. Robinhood, the commission-free app, where a huge share of this buying was happening, abruptly restricted its customers from buying the stock. You could sell. You just couldn't buy. Other brokers imposed similar limits. To the crowd, it looked like the game had been rigged mid-play, and the outrage was instant and everywhere. But here's the documented mechanical reason, and it matters. When you buy a stock, the trade takes time to fully settle behind the scenes, and a central clearinghouse requires brokers to post collateral against unsettled trades. Volatility this extreme sent those collateral formulas vertical. In the early hours of January 28th, the clearinghouse's daily demand on Robinhood came to roughly $3 billion, an order of magnitude beyond normal, and the company simply did not have it on hand. Restricting new buying in the volatile names was what shrank the demand to a level the firm could survive. Robinhood then raised billions in emergency capital within days, and restrictions were fully lifted on February 4th. The freeze broke the feedback loop. From that 483 peak, the stock closed the same day near $194, down about 60% from the high in hours. By February 2nd, it closed at 90. By February 4th, 53.50. Anyone who bought $10,000 worth at the very top held roughly $1,100 a week later. The aftermath reached Washington. On February 18, 2021, Congress held a televised hearing featuring the app's CEO, the hedge fund's founder, and Keith Gill himself, whose position had peaked at a value of roughly $48 million. And in October 2021, securities regulators published a staff report on what the data actually showed. What that report found surprised almost everyone, and it's the perfect bridge to the myths people still believe. That's next. Now the part that actually protects your money, the 4 biggest mistakes people make about this story. Mistake number 1, believing the short squeeze explains the entire price rise. Here's the twist. That October 2021 regulatory report examined the actual trading data and concluded that buying by short sellers covering their positions was only a fraction of the enormous volume. Most shorts got out relatively early, and that it was ordinary positive sentiment, wave after wave of regular people buying, that sustained the rise for weeks. Some academic researchers have since pushed back, arguing the squeeze effects were bigger than the report credited. The honest takeaway sits in the middle. The squeeze mechanics lit the fuse and supercharged the early move. But a crowd of believers did much of the lifting, and crowds can stop lifting at any moment. If your entire investment thesis is shorts will be forced to buy, understand that even in the most famous squeeze ever, that force was smaller and briefer than the legend says. Mistake number 2. Assuming the buying freeze proves a conspiracy, it's easy to see why millions believed it. Halting buying while allowing selling, right at the peak, looks terrible. But the mechanical explanation is documented: a roughly $3 billion overnight collateral demand from the clearing system that the broker couldn't meet, followed by an emergency capital raise measured in billions. Congress investigated, regulators investigated, lawsuits were filed. What the record supports is a firm caught badly underprepared for its own customers' success. And that's the real lesson. Your broker is a company with its own balance sheet, and in extreme conditions, its problems can become your problem at the worst possible time. Mistake number 3, believing you'll catch the next one. This is the expensive one. By the time a squeeze is trending, the mathematically explosive part, the forced buying, is usually already spent. The people who made life-changing money were positioned before the crowd arrived. Keith Gill's thesis was 2 years old by January 2021. The people who lost life-changing money bought inside the frenzy. Remember the arithmetic. $10,000 invested at the 483 top was worth about $1,100 1 week later, a loss of roughly 89%. Squeezes are violent in both directions, and the second direction doesn't send a notification. Mistake number 4. Thinking high short interest by itself guarantees a squeeze. It doesn't. Plenty of heavily shorted companies simply keep declining, and the shorts quietly win, Heavy short interest often exists precisely because a business is genuinely failing. A squeeze needs the crowded short position plus a credible catalyst, a wave of sustained buying, and a limited supply of shares. GameStop had all four at once, which is exactly why it's a once-in-a-generation case study and not a repeatable strategy. And underneath all four mistakes is the same root error: confusing a price story with a business story. For a few weeks, that ticker told you absolutely nothing about video game sales. It was a real-time map of forced buying, panicked exits, options hedging, and crowd psychology. Being able to tell which kind of story a price is telling might be the single most valuable skill this whole saga can teach you. If this breakdown made something click, do me one quick favor. Hit subscribe. This channel exists to make you the most financially literate person in the room, and this video is one piece of a much bigger library. We've got an entire market history series just like this one, plus deep dives on how options actually work, how professional traders size positions so no single trade can wreck them, and the psychology traps, like revenge trading and FOMO, that turned this exact event into a disaster for latecomers. Every one of those videos connects directly to what you just learned, so go check out the channel page. There's a lot waiting for you there. If you remember one thing from today, make it this. In the short run, a stock's price isn't always a report card on the business. Sometimes it's a map of who is being forced to buy or sell. GameStop went from $17 to $483 and back below $60 in about 5 weeks, and the business barely changed. The winners understood the mechanics before the crowd arrived. The biggest losers arrived last and understood them least. Markets don't reward excitement. They reward preparation. If you want to build that preparation, the other videos on this channel are designed to stack together: market history to learn from the past, risk management to survive the present, and investing fundamentals to build your future. Pick whichever one you need most right now. Quick reminder, this video is for education only and isn't financial advice. Always do your own research and consider speaking with a qualified professional before making investment decisions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And that's a wrap on today's topic. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss a lesson. Have a question about what we covered today? Drop it in the comments below. I'll be answering the best ones. If you want to dive even deeper, click on this next video right here, where we explore next topic. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.